we're going to be taking a look at some basic physical network hookup as well as some customized network hookup. In this case, what I have here is this is the internet service modem, and for this particular hookup, the way you see it now, we're going to kind of suppose that it's a regular hookup where the internet comes out from the modem's WAN or WAN port, meaning wide area network, or the internet, and it's going to come out. It's going to go into the gateways or the routers wide area network port, and that's all fine and good if this modem was just a modem and not a gateway. The significant difference between a modem and a gateway is that if you look, this has more sockets. This has more Ethernet ports. These Ethernet ports are going to come into play when I get into the other scenario that I personally have to deal with and how I got around that. If this was a regular modem and it didn't do any routing, these wouldn't be here. It would just be the one Ethernet port coming out. In that case, it would go to this device right here. Now, looking at this network that we are looking at now, this is actually causing a problem in that all of my network is currently offline. Nothing is working right now. The reason that nothing is working is because of a condition called double NAT, or double network address translation. This actually is a gateway. It's not just a modem, it's a gateway. So that device does network address translation. It is assigning the IP addresses to the devices. The problem is that so is this. This is a Netgear router. It's providing network address translation to all of the other devices. So, one way to actually test to see if that's a condition that you have, it's causing your phones and or possibly your other network devices to go offline, is that we're going to move some wires around. So we're going to kind of trick the system into thinking that it's configured differently. The first step to that, you're going to actually watch me do it, is that I'm going to take this cord right here, I'm going to take it out of this wide area network port. I'm going to stick it into any one of these. It doesn't matter which one. I'm also going to take this one. This is the other end of this cable. I'm going to move it. I'm going to move it out of this port and into this port. What this does is this creates a condition where this is no longer routing. It's now a switch, and it's interacting with another device that is no longer routing. It's a switch. Now, we need a device to route on the network. That's why it's called a router. So what I did, and I'm going to show you in the settings momentarily, is that I turned off the network address translation here. It's a setting called DHCP. I turned that off, and I turned it on this device. The caveat, there is a caveat to this. If you do this method, it is necessary to assign static IP addresses to every single device on your network. When you assign the static IP addresses to every single device on the network, they will all get out. They'll all get internet access and they will communicate with each other. In spite of the fact that I have DHCP on here, and I'll explain later when I get into the computer screen portion of this tutorial, is that if you have any one device that gets automatic address translation, what's going to happen, it's not going to reach out to this device for a gateway. It's going to reach out to this device for a gateway. And I'll show you on the computer screen. This device here is 192.168.0.1. This device has an IP address of 192.168.0.5. The problem is that if you have a device that's trying to get its address automatically by this router is going to point it to 192.168.0.5 for its internet access. The problem with that is that the internet access doesn't go there. The internet access has to come from here, 192.168.0.1. So the resolution to that is that we automatically set the IP addresses, and we manually set the gateways to 192.168.0.1. All right, now that our physical hookup has been completed, we're going to take a look at how In this case, I actually intentionally broke my network. This computer is currently offline. It has no internet access. In spite of the fact that it says that it does, the system thinks it has internet access. If I attempted to browse right now, it would get to an empty page. As we can see, I'm at a dead end because the site can't be reached. I have no internet. On the computer right now. And I'm getting ready to fix that so that I can then proceed to interact with the rest of the network. So I'm going to put this off to the side for just a moment. And you'll look under here, I have a command line. This is going to show exactly what happened. The IPv4 address that the computer automatically received was 192.168.0.6. That's fine. It would have worked except for the default gateway. It reached out to the default gateway of the Netgear router, which is indeed a dead end. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that. We're done with this, and this is the significance of the command prompt, is that it gives a lot of information as to exactly why the network is broke and why I'm seeing a dinosaur instead of google.com. So I've now configured my my wires on my devices to get around the whole double network address translation thing, but my network is still down. All of the devices are not reaching out. They're not getting out. They're not getting out because we have to do some settings on the computer. So we're going to start with the Internet Service Provider modem, and we're going to work step by step forward from device to device, from leg to leg, to clear the issue up. So the first relationship that I need to establish is between my computer and the the Internet Service Provider's gateway. So you'll see here I have no internet access, and that's fine. That's to be expected. We're going to right click that. We're going to open network and internet settings. Obviously no internet access. I'm going to change the adapter options. Now deliver the caveat here. If you see two devices in this window and the wireless has internet access, you want to make absolutely sure, for the sake of this troubleshooting, to right click that and disable that adapter. You don't want this computer to get internet access from anything other than the adapter you're working with. Right now, it shows that it's connected to a network called der Overwebs. There's no access. So we're going to right click that, and I'm going to show you why. We're going to go to Properties. We're going to go to IPv4. Select Properties there. It's obtaining the IP address automatically. We can't do that for what we have to do. We're going to use the following IP address, and we're going to use the DNS servers. The IP address I'm going to type in, because my Internet Service Provider's gateway uses a route of .0. So I'm going to use that route also, 192.168.0.75. Any number in the right is fine other than .1. Don't use .1 and don't use .256. Anything between 1 and 254, I'm sorry, anything between 2 and 254 will establish the connection. The default gateway, we're going to use .1. 192.168.0 is the route. .1 is the gateway address. For this, we'll go ahead and use 8.8.8.8 and 8.8.4.4. Now you're going to see on the right side there that some messages will pop up. We're going to close that. The computer is now checking that connection. And you'll see that currently I have internet access restored. And of course it pops up with a Facebook notification that one of my friends did something on Facebook. And that's fine. We've now established the communication between the computer and the ISP router. In this case, this is a Zyxel C1100Z provided by CenturyLink. This is the DSL service, so this is going to come into play for this particular troubleshooting step. So I'm going to go right over to Advanced Setup. I'm going to go to the WAN settings. The significance of this caveat is that DSL uses a PPOE authentication. So you never, ever, ever want to turn off the there's one setting in there that you don't want to touch. We're going to get back to that momentarily. We're going to check all of the other settings in here. DHCP. The DHCP server, I currently have disabled on that. If you see enable on that, you want to go ahead and hit disable. There's a reason for that later. We're going to cover that. While we're here, let's go ahead and look at some other stuff here. In security, you're going to find a setting called SIP-ALG. On these routers, that is enabled by default. Let's go ahead and touch that, disable that, and apply the settings. In my case, I'm not going to. It's going to restart the router needlessly. Now, we're done with that. Now, if you look up here, you're going to see that I have an address here of 192.168.1.1. This is my Netgear router. It's physically plugged in, but I can't reach it. So now I need to establish the relationship between my computer and that router so that I can fix it. So I'm back to Open Network and Internet Settings. And this is the significance of making absolutely sure that you don't have a wireless connection. You want to make sure that your data is only going through a wire so that you can follow leg by leg from wire to wire to make sure that this is fixed. We're going to change the connection properties. Oops, we're going to go back. We're going to go to status. We're going to change the adapter options. The adapter options is the one you want. I have my wireless disabled. I'm going to right click. I'm going to select properties. I'm going to go to IPv4. I'm going to select properties. I currently have a route of .0. I'm going to change it to .1 so I can reach the Netgear router. My DNS server addresses are just fine. Now on doing this, I'm going to lose internet connectivity. I expect to do so. It may not indicate it right away because the network doesn't realize what it is that I'm doing, and that's fine. We'll get back to that. Now I'm going to go back to my tab for .1.1. I'm going to see if it's reachable now. Looks like it sure is. So I'm going to sign in to my router. And I'm going to address the issue of making sure that my router falls in line with the rest of the equipment on the network. That .0 path is necessary in order to get not only my computer and its working relationship fixed, as you'll see that I've lost internet connection. The computer finally figured it out. But I also want to make sure that the rest of the devices all fall in line with the routing scheme. So I'm going to go to the Advanced tab in this. This is a Netgear, obviously. The 4500, the Netgear Nighthawk, basically the same interface. Nothing really a whole lot of different in that. So I'm in the Advanced setup here. I'm going to go to Setup. I'm going to be setting up my local area network because the router does not interact in a conventional manner with the wide area network intentionally. But I'm going to change the route. I'm going to change the route so it falls in line. .0. But in this case, I can't use a .1 because that's already occupied by the Internet Service Provider's gateway. So we're going to do a different number here. In this case, I'm going to use .5. .5 is significant in that what I do is I set up all of my routing devices, not the DHCP devices. Only one device provides DHCP. But there are other devices on my network that route, be it firewalls, smart switches, anything like that. So it's set to .0.5. The subnet address, that's going to stay, or the subnet mask is going to stay the same. I don't change any of that. Now, as you'll see, it's using the router as a DHCP server, but now look at the routes it's offering. It's offering .0 routes, starting with .6 and ending in the conventional manner with .254. I'm going to apply that setting. Now, this setting is instantaneous. I'm going to apply it, but I will not see this page refresh. I will not see this page refresh because now I have to come back down here to the internet settings, and I have to reestablish the relationship between the modem and the router and my computer, which all need to have .0 routes. Now, I set the route to .1 to get to this point. I'm going to go set it back to .0. I'm going to go back to change adapter options. I'm going to go back, right click here, and go to properties. I'm going to go to version 4, TCP, properties. I'm going to change this route again back to .0. Now I haven't occupied the address of 75 with anything else, so I can leave that alone. Just need to change the route octet from 1 back to 0 to reestablish the relationship. I'm going to OK that. I'm going to close that. I'm going to get that out of the way. Now, it's trying to refresh a page of .1.1, which of course doesn't exist. I can now go to .0, .5, and the router is still booting, and that's fine. It just can finish its booting, and it'll offer me a login. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in. So now, I have established my relationship between the computer and the Internet Service Provider router, the gateway, and my Netgear router. One leg, two leg. It's time for the third leg. It's time to fix my phones. Now, my phones were set to get their IP address dynamically. So what happened was the phones got good IP addresses, but they got a bad gateway. Because it's dynamic, their gateway is set to 0.5. And the result is that the phones are hitting the wrong gateway. They're not getting any internet access. We're going to take a look and see if at this point I even have access to the phones themselves. Now, what happened here, this Polycom, this is the IP address for a Polycom VVX. Now, because the IP address was set dynamically, it took an IP address of 192.168.1.6. It took the IP address because it was connected to the router when the router was .1.1. So we can do one of two ways here. We can either restart the phone to try and get it a proper route on its dynamic addressing, which it will, but I'm going to do the more challenging route, but the more expedient route. I'm going to establish my computer's relationship with the phone, because I'm going to go back to Network and Internet Settings. I'm going to change the adapter options. I'm going to go back to a .1 so that I can reach out to the phone. Now I'm going to set the default gateway to .1.1, which doesn't exist, but that's fine. I just want to establish the relationship between my computer and this phone so I can fix the phone. So now, having done that, I'm going to go back to .1.6. And this allows me to reach the phone. I'm going to effect the repair on the phone, and then of course, you see it coming, I'm going to reestablish the relationship between the phone and the rest of the network. So I need to go into the phone settings, into the network, into the Ethernet, into the IPv4 settings. Now you'll look, the settings here say .0.18, but it's faded out. It didn't go on that information. It went on the information that the router spewed out to it earlier when the router was a .1.1 address. It's no good. So I'm going to disable DHCP. Looking at these settings, this is actually set right exactly where I want it to be. .18, subnet mask is good. The IP gateway is .1. I'm going to save that configuration. It's going to cause the phone to restart. Now when the phone restarts, I am not going to see this page refresh because .1.6 no longer exists. It's back to the network settings, so I can move my computer back to the proper address and the proper route. So I'm going to change the adapter options back here, properties.
back to 4, and properties. Change my route back to 0. Change my gateway's route back to 0. I'm going to OK that. I'm going to close that. And I've reestablished the relationship now between the computer, the internet service modem, the router, and the first phone that I fixed. That phone's currently restarting. I'll see momentarily if that addressed the issue and fixed the phone. Now I'm going to look at another phone here. This one is addressed as 192.168.0.21 and it's unreachable. So for that, I'm going to do the other less expedient fix. I'm going to restart that device so it obtains an IP address automatically. It's going to obtain the IP address, but it's going to obtain the wrong gateway. I already know that. That's fine. When doing the restart method of the device, that negates your necessity for establishing the communications between the computer and the device. It's simply not necessary to do. That will be done automatically, but the device will not have communications yet with the internet. It's necessary to set that device's IP address statically with the static gateway of .0.1 for it to get back out to the internet. So while I'm waiting for devices to restart, I am going to pause this production. And I'm going to get back to it once the devices are back online and I can reestablish the communications. The Polycom phone did come back up. It came up successfully. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this IP address that's in the window. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste that into my browser because I want to verify that it's reaching in the manner that it's supposed to. And when I enter that, I get a connection. I'm seeing that the phone is online. I did do a test call. It worked quite fine. I'm going to go ahead and proceed to .18. And it looks like I'm in the interface. So that is a successful fix. The next thing that I'm looking for is on this device, I need to get its IP address. Obviously .0.21 is not going to be the IP address. So I'm going to head back over here to see if I can obtain it. I'm going to go to Attach Devices, log back in. Now I see a new device attached here with .0.18. Let's do a little exploration here and see if that is the Grandstream device that I broke by setting its IP address dynamically. It is not. So, for the sake of brevity, I'm going to pause the video here. I'm going to take a look at some settings, see if I can manually reach out to the other device, and then from there we'll continue. All right. Taking a look at the router. The router was able to find the device. It's currently sitting on 192.168.0.6. We're going to adjust that because of the way that I manage my network devices and because of the issue of the wrong gateway. That's what's causing the device to not get internet access, but I did restore access to the device's interface. I'm going to log into it. Sure, I'll save the password for that. You'll see that the device is not registered. Going to fix that. I'm going to go to the basic settings of the network. And the IP address mode is DHCP. That can't happen. It's going to cause the wrong gateway. I'm going to set that to a static IP. I'm currently sitting on the IP address of .0.21 from the previous network setup. That's fine. I'm going to save and apply. Now, because this is a Grandstream device, there is an extra step after applying it. The save and apply succeeded, but now I'm going to have to reboot the device. So that device is rebooting. it's going to come back with a proper gateway of .1 and a proper route of .0. And that is going to be the remainder of the devices that were broken and are now fixed. So again, I'm going to pause because the reboot is going to take a significant period of time. And for the sake of brevity, we'll get back once that reboot is completed, and we'll demonstrate that all the devices are now online and the computer is able to reach all the devices and everything is fixed. Is it fixed permanently? That's up to you and your personal network settings. In my case, this is a permanent solution. I maintain my network in this fashion. In the case of a larger enterprise type network, it may be necessary to use it simply as a troubleshooting step so that you know how to implement your resolution. I'm going to pause right now, and we'll be back momentarily once this device is restarted. And taking a look, we see that we were now able to reach the device at the intended IP address. Not only are we able to reach the device, but as we log in, we'll take a look. I can see from my desk that the device did properly register. And looking here, that's also clear. The device did properly register. This device is registered. We're good to go there. That's a duplicate tab, so I'm going to close that. Router, still quite reachable. And the modem, still quite reachable. So we've successfully gone from leg to leg, from the beginning to the end, and cleared the network path. Now I'll grant that in this network path I do have a 24-port switch. It's a dummy switch. All it does is switch, so it doesn't have an IP address. But that is exactly what caused my ability to get everything back online, get all the phones properly registered. One is able to call the other. I'm going to do my quick test here. And if you hear in the background, you'll see that I was able to successfully reach 1004 from 1002, thus verifying that all of my phones are back up and running. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, if you found this video to be constructive in your troubleshooting steps, by all means, feel free to go down there to the bottom, smash that like button. Feel free to subscribe, as I'm sure I'll be working on more of these troubleshooting type videos. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the support, and have a great weekend.